Welcome to the Fly Culture Podcast, bringing you interviews, reviews and fishing tips. Here's your host, Pete Tigus.
It was dark when I left this morning, but I've got to the river now. It's been a drive. It's overcast. The conditions feel fantastic. I've walked up to the river. I've spotted some fish. I've even seen a rise. There's not much hatch around at the moment. I'm on a chalk stream. Welcome back to the Fly Culture Podcast. So, like I say, we're in chalk stream country at the moment. I'm so lucky to be on the River Test. I've caught up with my good friend Gilly Bate, who's been a podcast guest before. And it's just, I think I've said it on previous podcasts as a cricket fan, it's kind of, when I sort of peer over the reeds and look into the crystal clear water for the first time, it's like when I get to Lord's and go up through the stands, climb the stairs, look out in that vast swathe of beautiful, lush green. And I have that similar sort of feeling when I come to fish the Test and seeing the fish wandering around, getting a sense of how they behave, what they're up to. You know, Gilly now is standing next to me and just spotting fish at the moment. And we were just talking off mic about what fishing means to us right now. And I hope with this podcast, you'll get a sense of that. But Gilly, thank you so much for having me along today. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. And thank you very much for coming and joining me. It's going to be great fun. It's great fun. Just the two of us. River, as you said, the river's, oh, did you see that? Yeah. Oh, I just had a fish came up and nabbed something off the top. Real snappy rise. There's a fish, little trout in front of us. Well, it's quite a big trout, actually. And it's nymphing down on the bottom, that one. And there's a nice grayling. So I think we're in for a good day. I'm excited. I'm really excited. As you said, hairs standing on end, ready for it.
And that's the really cool thing as a full-time fishing guide, getting a day off and being able to hit the river is a treat, isn't it?
Oh, completely. I mean, I do love it. You know, I love being with clients and I get as much excitement watching them catch a fish. You know, it's like I'm fishing too. But to have the time, I think it's a luxury when you're on your own. I spend a lot more time just watching a fish before I'll even make that cast. I think maybe sometimes as a guide, I don't know what other guides out there feel, but I think sometimes as a guide, because you've got them all day, they're paying for you for the day, there is a certain amount of pressure to have to get them fish and to keep walking and to find a fish that's rising and, you know, it's all just set up properly. Whereas when I'm on my own, I'm much more considered. I take a lot longer before I'll make that cast or even move from that position.
That's really cool. And I know when we were setting up, we just said, you know, we're in no rush. We're going to look and see if we can find some rising fish. Like we said, Gilly said that we've just seen one rise there at the moment. We've got dry flies on and the plan is to find some rising fish and cast to them. And I guess that really is sums up chalk stream fishing or the history of chalk stream fishing. We're watching fish moving around now and it's really, really exciting. But Gilly, is things... Now we're sort of at the very end of August. I guess it's a different sort of river now, isn't it? I guess a lot of the time you would probably associate chalk streams more so with mayfly. Of course, to somebody like yourself who's on there every day, that may not necessarily be the case. But this time of year, is that sort of an interesting time for you to be out on the river fishing?
I think it's actually my favourite time to be out in the trout. I think the river height's lowered usually by now. It's gone down. Clarity is usually very good, depending on where you are. Upper test is always clear, but the middle test can be a little bit coloured. And it was, in fact, this year, because we'd such volume of water in May, even on those middle stretches, it was still quite coloured a little bit. But today, the clarity is fantastic. It's kind of settled down. Everything feels a bit quiet. You also know you've not got very long. We've only got another, 6 weeks? And then that's kind of that's the end of it until next year. So there's that kind of, got to get those last fish before it all kind of finishes. And also what I really like is it's a bit harder. Not that mayfly is always super easy. It can be difficult in mayfly. But at this time of year, fish have seen an awful lot of anglers. You know, these beats every single day, there's fishermen out. So they're very savvy. They're savvy on lines hitting the water. They're very suspicious of flies. So if presentation's not quite right, they're like, oh, I don't think so. So I like the fact it's harder, it's challenging. And I think all the guides I know, they all love September too. I think it's lovely. It's a really nice time of year to be out on the water.
Cool. Well, it looks as though things are starting to happen. Like I said in the intro, that conditions feel pretty good at the moment, and we've seen this fish rise. We may have a look at that one, but we're going to keep you in touch with how things go. But I think that's as I've said many times before, being able to see the fish is a wonderful education. And I guess, at home, I wouldn't know if fish have seen a lot of flies or not, but here today, you'll get a sense of that, and I'll get a sense of that, how the fish react to the fly. Have I got the right one on? I've only tied on at the moment as my marker fly. My guess is things may start to happen as the day progresses. As the year's getting a little bit later, perhaps it's more so lunchtime, mid-afternoon than evening, although things, may be happening then, and I'm looking forward to finding that out now. So I'm really excited to see this. I've got my setup. I've got a 9'3" weight at the moment. I've put on one of Paul Proctor's pearl butter mergers, which for me is a classic fly, particularly if I'm starting to see fish starting to rise as well. But Gilly, what have you got on at the moment? Or what you haven't got anything yet?
I haven't put anything on yet because I'm going to wait till I get to wherever I'm going to start, and then I'll sit and watch the river for a while. At the moment, I can see I've been scanning the water as I've been standing here, and apart from that one, oh look, do you see that? That was another tiny rise. That was something small. So there's obviously something about, generally is at this time of year, as we go into September, the upwing flies, the olives have actually got smaller, and the sedges tend to have got bigger. So I guess it's just a case of waiting and see. The other day when I was out, we were using size 20 little olive emergers, and actually I have got a little box of Paul's flies as well, which I keep for special occasions, because he's only given me a few, so I'm hoping I might use those out. We'll just wait and see. I don't know until we'll have a better idea if we talk later, and we'll see what's coming off. At the moment, there's not much happening, but I think it will be midday actually when it warms up. Things will start to happen, and later on this afternoon we'll get some sedges popping all over the place, hopefully.
And that's a great tip, spoken by a true professional, that I was just far too excited tying on a fly, but exactly great info there. Wait and see what's happening. I guess that comes from me from fishing the water rather than to the fish a lot of the time, but I think that's a really great tip. So I guess what we're going to do now is head upstream a little bit, see if we can find a fish or two. I'm just walking down to the bottom of the beat now. Gilly and I have split up. I thought, and as I always say as a former guide myself, that she's got a day off fishing. So I thought she'd probably, instead of standing next to somebody rabbiting onto her, that I thought she'd kind of like the fact that she could probably just go fishing on her own and enjoy that aspect of it. So I've let her do that. I've walked downstream. The river here is probably 25, 30 odd feet across. It's not particularly deep, but I look in some of the indents and I can see fish there. I think I've the right choice of rod. I'm seeing fish actually just swim upstream as I'm standing here talking at the moment. And I've got sort of the setup I described earlier, and I'm sort of kind of thinking how I'm going to fish that as well. Because I'm fishing a dry, I'm thinking about drift, actually. That's the thing I'm thinking about straight away. I've got to manage that. I'm looking at the myriad of different flows, and so drag's obviously going to be quite a big issue here. So I'm already thinking, right, I'll put a reach cast in immediately when I deliver the cast, just to give me a chance to sort of figure things out a little bit, give me a window of drag-free drift as well. So I think that's the plan. The other thing I've noticed as I'm walking downstream, some grasshoppers as well. And I know in the States, hoppers are a big part of the menu in summertime. I don't know if many people have played with hoppers to any degree in the UK, really, and I'd be fascinated to hear. I'd be interested to learn if anyone has. I know I spent some time with John Tyzak, and I know he listens to the podcast, and he was down staying one time and said that, he'd tied some up for fishing on Dartmoor, but I can't remember how much success he's had with those. So at least there's one person I know of. But yeah, let me know if you've used them. They're a relatively bright green colour at the moment. I don't know if that means that they're newly sort of shed or something like that. I don't know so much about grasshoppers, so that'll be interesting to see. But they're just little things you notice as you walk down, and I've just seen a rising just downstream of me. So it looked like it took an emerger as well. So I'm going to get myself into position. Gilly's suggested I walk downstream, cross the river and come back up the other side. So she's the expert, so I'm going to follow her advice. Oh, and just another rise there. Bubbling that one could well have been a grayling. So didn't see it, but that was just opposite me. But it just goes to show if you stop for a little while, watch what's going on, the clues all suddenly unfold for you. So I walked over the bridge upstream and just waited for a bit. And I saw a rise and casted it. And again, it's one of those things I learned very quickly within a couple of casts. Chalkstream fish generally needs to be right in their channel. And like I said, there's been all this proliferation of different flows and flow speeds and everything else. And cast, had a fish come to the fly, didn't stick, waited for a second, cast out again, and this time hooked and landed a grayling of about £1. Now, that was really cool because, again, for me at home, I don't really get grayling to go out in any way, shape or form. But it's kind of cool to get underway. Really, really pleased about that. And yeah, I'm learning, again, just sort of getting into the mindset of a chalkstream angler, thinking about the drift. So as I said, I'm sort of standing as you look downstream on the true right bank. And so what I was doing was taking my rod as I was casting, the line was going out. I was reaching my rod upstream to give me that lovely drag-free drift, and the fish came and gave me a go at it. I think I probably missed it. Graylings sometimes turn on a fly and follow it downstream. And I think I may have just pulled it a little bit too quickly, but it was a generous one, or there may be more than one fish. And I was very, very lucky to hook that one. So that was great news. I'm just sort of waiting to see, like I say, if there was more than one grayling, if that has put those fish down, or if it was just the one. I think I can see another fish in a similar sort of spot, so I may well chuck another cast down in there. I've not seen a rise, and I'd prefer to see another rise. The fish I can see is relatively active, and he's sort of sitting in the gaps between the weed at the moment. So really exciting. It's really exciting to get off the mark as well. Just spotted another fish. And again, one of the excitements of being able to fish these sorts of water is seeing the fish and particularly their behaviour to a fly as well. So really, really cool. I just thought I'd talk to you now while I'm waiting. I've just walked up probably 20 feet or so. And while I was drying my fly off, because it's a CDC one, so I wanted to make sure it's properly dried, I'd seen a fish rise a couple of times. I can't see it yet. It's just while I've moved up, I've not seen any signs of life from it just yet. Again, I'm thinking about that next cast, because where I think the fish is, there are two bits of weed poking up through the water. So if I make my cast to where I think the fish is, there's going to be a chance they're going to grab the line and affect the drift. So it may be I think about that reach cast even more and see. But I've not seen it go yet. But I'm really enjoying its early days yet. But I'm really enjoying this casting to the rising fish type thing. It's really fun. Right, now, good news. I've just seen the fish rise. It's a little bit further up than I thought, so I think I'm going to be probably clear of the weed. I haven't got my attachment wire that I can talk you through what I'm doing, but if I hook the fish, I'll try and talk you through if I'm lucky enough, but we'll see what happens. But that's good news that I don't have to worry about that weed so much there. But it seems in those flatter sections of water, the rise, a merger. Let's see if the pearl buck can work its magic again. Well, that was cool. It took a couple of casts, and again, I'm just playing grayling. It's absolute pea in the pod of the last one, of about £1. Took the pearl buck, second cast, which was great news. And so, yeah, I'm really just having absolutely awesome time. Just going to net this fish now. So I've just slid back another grayling from the same spot. So that must have been the one I'd seen, and similar sort of size again, about £1 or so. I've had enough fun with those, so in case there is a pod of them there, I'm going to leave the rest of them alone now and walk upstream, see if I can find something else rising. It really is overcast at the moment. It really is warm. I couldn't wish, I don't think, for better conditions. I've been catching those fish more to the far side of the river. So it's been nice making casts, thinking about the drift and everything else as I described earlier. I'm fishing graphite today, which I haven't for absolutely ages, because I felt that some of the fish in here might be a little bit bigger, and fishing from the bank as well. I didn't want to put a set in my rod over tip of a bamboo rod by trying to bring a strong fish in close to the bank. So I'm fishing a Gatti rod actually, which is a brand you may not be familiar with, but Sandro Gatti's been building rods for a really, really long time, and I'd sort of coveted one for a long time. So I treated myself, and it's coming up with the goods. More of a mid-action rod, great cushion for playing the fish as well. Nice and slow and easy to cast. So really enjoying it. So yeah, it's fun flexing some graphite at long last. I guess I've walked past a fair few fish that I probably could have flipped a nymph on and may have got lucky with them, I may not have done. But I'm really enjoying this fishing and being patient. And I guess, I've talked about it many times before that if you've got a day off, I think if I was guiding someone here, I may have flipped a nymph on for them and see if they could find some fish that way. But I'm kind of really enjoying this, and I'm not knocking the ball out of the park at the moment. I've sort of walked upstream. There's a little carrier, and I'm having a look here. There's sort of a bend in the river ahead of me. Gilly mentioned it can be a good spot, but I've not really seen the rising fish kick off how it felt like it may have done when I started. So maybe things happen a little bit later. Interestingly as well, I've changed my fly. I've still got the pearl butt. It's only because the CDC's got so wet and I've tried drying it out, but it's still not happened. I haven't got much powder with me at the moment to dry it, so I've done it as best as I can, but hasn't really worked out that way. And I've got a scruffier profile on, and I've been a big proponent of scruffy flies for many, many years, and it'll be interesting. The fish I called earlier were all on a slimmer profile, and I can't wait to see if I get a shot at a fish with this, just to see if subtle differences do actually make a difference or not. So I managed to bump into Gilly on the river and watched her catch a fish extremely skillfully, and we bumped into each other on a pool, and there's been the fish rising. I've sort of walked a fair amount and not seen many rising fish. And then one has just come out. I've had a tiny emerger on. I switched from the pearl butt and put a smaller emerger on, and they're having a look. What have you got on, Gilly? What's the fly?
It's a size 20 beacon beige.
She's got a size 20 beacon beige on, and the fish are showing an interest in it, but they're not eating it, and they're nice fish, and it's really, really exciting. Again, it's one of those things. There's a big fish we've spotted, and the back on him is just a big, big guy. Oh, it just spotted my first caddis of the day as well, by the looks of it as well. So that's encouraging. But yeah, it's been nice to watch this. Yeah, they're having a look at the flies, but they're not committing to them just at the moment. It looks like it's going to be one of those ones who you just got to keep changing. That's how it feels right now. So that fish was a real team effort. What we've been doing is waiting for these fish to rise, try and figure out what they're eating, make a change and see if we can catch it. And sometimes it works, not always. And we'd seen, I think I'd previously said that we'd seen a caddis come out, and the big guy's still there. We've not had any joys with him just yet, but I cast to a couple of fish to the right and the back of the pool, and lo and behold, one came out and ate it straight away, which was really, really cool. Gilly netted it, masterclass in getting a fish back nice and quickly. Warren McCarthy, one of your flies, thank you. It's the red buck caddis with some CDC. And yeah, the big guys just looked at Gilly's fly again, but didn't eat it. But this is really, to me, what fishing's about. You spend the time with a friend, you take it in turns, you each get excited when the other one hooks a fish as well. This to me is the essence of probably why I enjoy fishing so much. So we just had a really civilised lunch. We thought we'd rest the fish, this great big guy. to see if he would come back on again. We've come back, and it looks as though conditions. We were just talking about it off mic, and it feels as though the air's just not quite as thick. It felt as though stuff was on the cusp or might potentially happen. We're sitting here or standing here watching to see if we can spot him again, but it seems as though things have. Oh. No, it's weed. It's funny how weed plays on your mind. You sort of are looking into the water, looking for that great big fin moving, but looks as though that's gone a little bit quiet. So what's the plan, Gilly?
I think it's not happening here. It's just not happening here. They've gone down, whatever. And it just feels different. There's no rises at all. I just know it's not right. So I think there's plenty of other water here. We've got miles of it. So let's go exploring. Go and find somewhere else. See if we can find some fish where there might be something happening somewhere else. This is quite deep here. It's a big, deep pool. So if we go somewhere it's shallower, you might get some rises and some shallower water. Just different feel.
That sounds like a good plan. So Gilly called the change of play. We're on one of the little carriers. We were walking downstream, and sometimes it always goes, or sometimes it can go to plan, and we'd spotted a fish rising. The bankside vegetation here is quite high. The river's really narrow, probably 12, 15 feet wide, if that. Pretty shallow. We'd seen a rise. Gilly said she wanted to change her fly, so would I like to have a go? And I did. And I've still got the caddis on with the red butt on it, and cast it out, and the fish came out straight away and ate it, which is really cool. It's just wonderful when those moments play out like you hope they will, and it was almost like one of those dream textbook fishing moments, really. So it's just watching Gilly make some most elegant casts, and we'd seen a fish rise downstream, and it's been really cool. Just as I got here, I was sort of keeping a low profile and saw a set on this fish. So she's got a nice one in here that's playing doggo at the moment, actually, but strong fish, trying to get in under the tree, and popped it there. It was a really strong dive into the undergrowth and then just popped it off there. But magical to see that happen. And that there, the fly's still there. So that was pretty cool, though, wasn't it?
That was awesome. That to me, that's what it's all about. I mean, they weren't. There was two fish side by side. They weren't specifically rising, but they were right on the surface, and you just know they're looking around for stuff. And he just came up and went boof, nabbed it. Yes, that's what it's all about. Awesome.
Nice. Which fly? Are you still on the F fly? Are you on the?
Back to I mean, it's so old fashioned, my little beacon beige, which actually, if you look at it, it's kind of getting scruffier and scruffier, but it's working. So I'm not going to change it.
There's little doubt in that. Well, like I said earlier, that the change of location has already paid dividends in probably the 10 minutes we've been fishing. So it's been really, really thrilling to see this, and super exciting too. So we sort of walked up a relatively sort of straight piece of water with differing flows in there. We found fish that have been rising against the far bank, and we've even caught a few. Gilly, we were just going to chat for a little bit, but she's quickly dried her fly, and has seen a fish rise, and he's just moved out to the far side there. But we found the caddis has brought the fish up, and it's been interesting. We've sort of been walking along, chatting, making a few casts, netting for each other, and it's been really cool. But Gilly's just put back a really, really nice grayling, which was cool, wasn't it?
That was amazing. I actually thought it was a trout. It absolutely hammered. Well, you heard it from where you were. It literally came up and went bang. And I thought, yes, I've caught a big trout. But it was quite a small grayling. But how cool was that? It was just awesome.
And this has been the fun part of it, just seeing these fish rise against the tight bank. You've got to manage your drift as you go down. And like I was saying when I was fishing on my own, I'm watching Gilly cast and then make a big upstream reach, which gives her that really nice drift across, because we're going right across the river there as well. River's probably 30 feet, something like that, possibly a tiny bit more, perhaps a tiny bit less. And the fish seem to be in the near side to us. There's sort of a bubble line sort of coming down about 4 or 5 feet out from the bank, which we've seen smaller fish rising in there, and we've decided to leave those alone and looking for those rises. And we've had the takes, actually the last 2 fish have been pretty explosive takes. You mentioned the grayling, haven't you? And
that classic kind of sedge, classic bang on the water. But it is amazing talking about those reach casts, because I think where we are at the moment, when you look across the river, it looks like a very steady, even flow, but it's actually running much faster than you think. And I know last month I went swimming, not here, but very close to here. And it was just like this. I couldn't swim against the current. And it looked as calm as calm. And that's the problem with your fly. You don't think it's being, the current's affecting it, but it really is. And they won't take it if it's not right. They just go, nah, I don't think so.
And so there we go. That's a tip. And even for the rivers I fish back home, one of the things I'm always thinking about is getting that drift and adding slack in as a matter of course more than anything else. And again, being able to see the fish's reaction is really, really cool. And you may hear Gilly in the background there, and somebody who's on the water all the time with people. We've seen a fish rising against the far bank, is super excited, and it is kind of nice being able to get the chance to make some casts yourself rather than trying to get somebody in position at the moment. But it's been the caddis pattern again. Warren's pattern has come up trumps. It's got, like I say, a little bit of red on the back there that seems to be a really cool trigger point that's brought those fish up. So it's kind of cool. And I gave Gilly one of those as well, and it's just worked for her as well. So it's really cool. So Warren, I know you'll be listening, so I'm sure you'll be thrilled. We were just talking when I turned off the mic, and I think Gilly made a really interesting point about the fish and the rising fish. What was it you were saying?
Well, today, we have seen rises, but it's not what I would call a classic dry fly day. I mean, we've seen sporadic rises every now and again, and usually if we've cast at those fish, we've been reasonably lucky and we seem to have caught them. But a lot of today has actually been spotting fish that are high in the water, and because of the flies that have been working on the fish that have been feeding, if we put those same flies over a fish, they've come up and taken it. And I think that's what sometimes fishermen maybe give up, and they kind of get, we'll just nymph. But actually, so often, particularly in September, the fish are quite often, the water's very steady and they're kind of around. And we've caught a lot of fish today that weren't doing anything, but they were sitting high. Anything that's been sat low hasn't happened, and we've ignored them. So we have been selective over on what we've caught at, we've cast out, but definitely it's been working, hasn't it?
Absolutely. And, I think the lesson from that is patience as well, isn't it? And waiting, I waited for those fish to rise and got myself into position and marked fish if they're a bit further up. And one I just had recently, that I'd seen a tree and used the tree on our bank as a marker to a fish that I'd seen rise just the once. They're not like Gilly's saying, it's not like a hard-on fishing day of rising fish. We've just had to cover water, walk the beat and just find those fish and look for those rising fish. And it's turned out to be to pay dividends. So, we've stuck with the dry flies and they've worked really well for us. And like you say, sometimes you can easily say, well, actually, it doesn't feel like it's happening. I'll throw a duo on or whatever it is. But it's worked. And I've walked past a lot of fish. I know that. But I don't mind that. I like that we've had the challenge of finding those fish and casting to them and them meeting the fly. So it's been really, really cool. Here's something interesting. While we were putting Gilly's fish back, we'd seen a fish rise downstream. So I've come back down again and to get into position to cover it, and I could see it. And the fly I'd been using, I've been fortunate enough to catch a few fish with it. And although it was floating, it was a little bit bedraggled. And so I decided to change it. I changed the same pattern, but a newer one, treated it, sitting up nice and high, first cast straight out, a fish hit that. So even though I guess I always like a really high floating dry, there are situations where perhaps you might not want that, but generally I like that, and certainly for a lot of the fishing I do at home in faster water. But it was kind of interesting to see that, a fly that had been working really, really well. And I felt not that it had passed its best as a pattern at that moment in the day, but perhaps it just needed some help. And like I say, I had it floating relatively high, but the moment I put a new one straight away a fish. So I'm sure there's some information in there one way or another. So we've had some rain come in, and we went back and had a quick cup of tea, and we're back at the place we were at just before lunchtime. And I thought it was going to be one of those days where it was just like a one or two fly days. And I've had, as you probably gathered, the caddis a fair bit of success on that, as has Gilly, and the pearl button merger to start the day. But we'd seen some fish rise, and it didn't look right. I'd covered the caddis a couple of times, came and had a look, but didn't want to eat it. So I went for the old-fashioned Griffiths net, which thought I'd give that a try just as an alternative, and gave a load of casts, and nothing happened. And Gilly was changing her fly, and I said, "Well, why don't you give it a go?" And I just played again with drift. And thinking about drift, and I was putting more and more slack in, and I managed to get a shot in with a lot of drift in it, basically, and the fish came and took. So that was really, really pleasing. Just watching Gilly now make a pretty long cast. It's right up the pool, and she's had the fish come and turn on it and have a look, but not commit. It's a really tricky cast in a really nasty to reach place, but she's managing to pull it off. And as I said, she's had the fish come and have a look, but just not come and committed fully to it yet. So it's kind of exciting to see. And again, because it's a longer cast, controlling that drift is another issue that you have to contend with as well.
I'm tired now.
So we've given it a really good go. The decent fish, I threw the Griffiths. I think it turned on it. I thought I waited long enough, lifted into it what I thought was going to be the weight of the fish, and nothing there. And we've continued, we've mixed. Gilly's been a real proper professional and been changing flies, and we've been trying all sorts of stuff. It's been really good fun though, because it's been a long cast. So as casting instructors as well, it's been fun throwing some long lines and just playing around there, and that's been great fun. But I hope this has come across how much I've enjoyed today. It's just been really good fun. It's just two friends fishing and enjoying it for exactly what it is. And I hope this has come across to you as well. But Gilly, I'd just love to thank you for such an awesome day on the river. It's been really good fun. I've laughed lots. And it's just been almost like a team effort, working out the fish, discussing tactics and stuff like that. Being a guide, you got your finger on the pulse of what's going on on the river as well. And, you're quickly calling stuff and, right, this isn't the spot. Let's move to here. Let's move to there. And that, I think, it's been wonderful fishing with you, but also to get an inside track of your expertise on the chalk streams as well. But it's been awesome. Thank you so much for having me along today.
Thank you, Pete, for coming along, being fantastic company. I haven't guided you at all. You're being very kind. We've just, you're fantastic at what you do, and it's just been cool. Two people fishing together, and at the moment, I wish you guys could see what we're doing, because we're in this amazing spot, and we've both been after a couple of fish in here. Long casts, tricky casts, change of flies. For me, we've caught really nice fish today. Beautiful fish, and it's been great fun, everything on dry. But actually, when I go home, I'm going to be thinking about these fish in this spot that we've both, you've had a lovely one out right at the end of the day, but we've both fluffed them. I had one under a tree, which I just fluffed it, missed it. You had a really nice one in the middle, and that's why we come back. Because although I've had an amazing time, caught amazing fish, this fish in here, I will be thinking about this tonight at 1 a.m. if I wake up. And for me, that's what it's all about. And being with a great mate and having, gosh, this is fishing, fun and cool and shared. I don't know, I don't ever know how to explain what it is. It's just awesome.
I always say if you had to explain it, you wouldn't. If I had to explain it, you wouldn't understand it. And Gilly's sort of taken a rod down. I'm praying and hoping I'll get another shot at that fish, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. But Gilly, if someone's heading down to the chalk streams and wants a guide, how do they get hold of you?
If you want to get hold of me, you can, we've got a Fly Odyssey Chalkstream website. So it's www.flyodysseychalkstream, all one word, .co.uk. If you Google my name, I'm quite lucky because, or Gilly the Gilly, but it's Gilly and fishing, fly fishing. Generally you find me because there's not very many girls down here doing it. That's probably the best way. Email me on g.bate, B-A-T-E, @flyodyssey.co.uk, and we can help you find some fishing. And it's not long now, and we'll be getting into the grayling season. So do come along for the grayling. I'm very happy, thrilled and very excited to be running a day with, the wonderful Mr. Paul Proctor. We're doing that at Whirlpool. That is I think it's the 28th, 29th of October at Whirlpool Estate, and it will be a full day of modern shortline techniques for grayling fishing. We'll be doing dry fly as well. We'll be doing classic indicator fishing. You name it, we'll be covering everything in a day. So do get in touch with me if you're interested in joining in.
Fantastic. I think that'll be a great day. And oh dear, that fish has just risen again. So that's cool. So, if you're heading down this way and you want Gilly's expertise and Paul's expertise, that's a win double for you. So hopefully you'll consider that as well at some stage. But this has been a great day. I've got to make another cast. I'm really sorry. But thank you so much for listening to the Fly Culture podcast. I hope you've enjoyed a day on the water with us. And there'll be, as ever, another one next week. But thanks so much for listening.
The Fly Culture podcast is brought to you in association with Fly Culture, a quarterly print magazine. For more information, please visit flyculturemag.com. You can also find Fly Culture on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter.